The engine of the old Mustang rattled a final cough before falling silent. Liam stared at the windshield, the desert heat already warping the view of the sun-bleached motel sign. The vinyl seat stuck to the back of his thighs. He felt hollowed out, a shell waiting for the final blow. 3 years of playing the monster, and the curtain was finally falling. He had one last selfish act in him. His brother's downtown office building was a glass monolith, a world away from the dusty roads of his childhood. He used to haunt these halls, a skinny kid trailing after his hero. The security guard, Martha, would sneak him candy bars and wink him through. He'd sprawl on the plush couch in the corner office, pretending to do homework, just waiting for that moment the door would open. Sometimes he'd fall asleep, and a soft wool blanket would settle over him. The couch was big enough for two, and he'd wake to find his brother asleep beside him, the city lights painting patterns on the ceiling. That was his safest place in the world. Now, Martha's smile was a professional mask. Mr. Reed, do you have an appointment with Mr. Reed? I need to see him.
I'm sorry.
He's extremely busy. He's not taking any visitors. Visitor. The word was a tiny, precise needle to the heart. He tried the old smile, the one that used to make her laugh. Martha, come on. Please just tell him I'm here. I miss him. For a flicker, her eyes softened, seeing the ghost of that boy. Then it vanished, replaced by the cold recollection of his recent history, the hostile takeovers, the ruthless headlines, the public scorching of his own family name. She sighed and picked up the phone. A minute later, she delivered the verdict, flat and final. He won't see you. Of course. He'd made sure of that. The memory of the vision was still cold in his bones. A shimmering, cruel interface in his mind, showing him his brother's future. Ruined, broken, brought to his knees by a man named Carter, left with nothing. He'd retched right there on his apartment floor. His brother, his bright, steady star, reduced to ashes. The entity offered a trade. It needed someone to play a part, to generate the conflict that fueled its existence. The role of the villain was vacant. Take my place, Liam had thought, a desperate, wild hope. Let me walk that path instead. He didn't regret it, but the collateral damage was a constant ache. Eli, the man he was supposed to torment, they'd met in college. For a while, Eli had felt like the only other person in the world who mattered. Ruining him was a slow poison Liam had to swallow daily. To protect his brother, he'd built his own empire, a separate fortress. He was shockingly good at it. Then, on the entity's command, he turned his gaze on Eli and Carter. The tactics came to him with a horrible, instinctive ease. Blackmail, sabotage, corporate warfare. He'd cornered Eli once, in a soundproofed conference room high above the city. He remembered the click of the lock, the way Eli's confident posture had stiffened. He'd backed him against the glass wall. The city sprawled beneath them like a circuit board. Thinking he'll save you? He'd murmured, voice dripping a false, languid malice. He can't. No one can. Just say you'll stay. Say it and I'll open the door. Eli's eyes, wide with betrayal, had asked the question Liam couldn't answer. Why are you doing this, Liam? I thought we were friends. Inside, Liam was splintering. Friends? He'd laughed, the sound brittle. I don't have friends. You're just a prize. He waited by his brother's sleek car in the underground garage for hours, the fluorescent lights humming. When footsteps finally echoed, his heart hammered against his ribs. His brother, Marcus, emerged from the elevator. The years had sanded away any softness, leaving only a sharp, imposing intensity. His gaze swept over Liam and moved on without a flicker, as if he were a concrete pillar. Liam stood up, his throat tight. Marcus. His brother paused. A low, humorless sound escaped him. Marcus, I must be confused. Weren't you the one who held a press conference to inform the world you were an only child? He didn't wait for an answer, reaching for the car door. Liam stepped into his path. He gestured to the faded university sweatshirt he wore. Look, I'm wearing it. The one you got me after I aced my finals. You said blue was my color. Marcus's eyes flickered to the fabric, then away. I don't recall. He moved to go around. Liam slid into the passenger seat before the door could close. Marcus turned, and the look in his eyes was pure, unvarnished exhaustion and disgust. Get out. Have dinner with me. Do you honestly believe, Marcus said, each word measured and cold, that we can sit across a table from each other? Watching you perform is exhausting. Panic clawed at Liam. He grabbed his brother's wrist. My 21st birthday. You missed it. You said you owed me a wish. I'm cashing it in. Marcus went very still. The anger seemed to fracture for a second, revealing something startled and vulnerable beneath. That memory was a shared sanctuary. Liam's 21st. Marcus had canceled everything, but a senior colleague had collapsed at a construction site, family overseas. A life hung in the balance. Liam had told him to go, of course he had. He'd lied and said he had plans with friends. He'd sat alone in their quiet house, waiting by a cake until 3 in the morning. When Marcus finally came home, drained and gray, he'd found Liam there. Why are you still up? He'd asked, voice ragged. Liam had just grinned and demanded candles. In the dark, with tiny flames between them, Liam had wished with every fiber of his being. Let me stay with him forever. After he blew them out, Marcus had looked at him, softer than Liam had ever seen. What did you wish for? Can I make it happen? Liam had shaken his head. It doesn't work if you say it. Marcus had been quiet, then said something solemn. Then I owe you one. Anything. Anything you ever want. If it's in my power, it's yours. Liam had hoarded that promise. A secret weapon for a day, he might need the courage to cross a line he'd only dreamed of. He loved his brother. Not the way he was supposed to. Finally, Marcus leaned back against the headrest, eyes closed. His throat worked. You have to do this? Just dinner. Your rosemary chicken. I haven't had it in years. Liam's voice was barely a whisper. Use the wish and I disappear. For good. Marcus opened his eyes. They were dark, unreadable. He gave a single curt nod. Once. The drive to Liam's loft was silent. Inside, Marcus shrugged off his suit jacket, moving with a familiar ease to the kitchen. He opened the fridge. No fresh rosemary. Can't make it. Anything is fine. Marcus began to prep ingredients, his back to Liam, broad and trusting. Liam's fingers closed around the cloth in his pocket. He moved silently, coming up behind him, and pressed it over his nose and mouth. Marcus stiffened. A muffled sound of surprise caught in the fabric. He staggered, one hand slapping against the marble countertop for balance. His head lolled, confusion giving way to a dawning, furious understanding as he turned. His eyes, the same clear gray as a winter sky, blazed with pure rage. Liam couldn't hold his weight. They slid together to the polished concrete floor, Marcus a heavy, warm weight in his arms. Liam smoothed the tension from his brother's brow, a tear tracking through the dust on the floor. Just stay with me for a little while, he murmured, as Marcus's eyelids finally fluttered shut. Consciousness returned to Marcus with a jolt of disorientation, then a tidal wave of fury. He was naked, cold metal circling his wrists and ankles, and Liam, equally bare, was straddling his hips. You're awake. Liam. What the hell have you done? Get off. The chains rattled violently as Marcus strained against them, muscles corded, a vein throbbing at his temple. You're burning up, Liam whispered, reaching to touch his forehead. Marcus jerked his head away. The rejection was a physical ache. Liam took a capsule, placed it between his brother's lips, then took a mouthful of water from a glass on the nightstand. He leaned down, sealing his mouth over Marcus's, forcing the water and pill down. Swallow. It was their first kiss, a desperate clinical thing, but Liam was addicted instantly. He didn't want to pull away. What did you give me? Marcus's voice was a ragged scrape. What do you think? Liam's own voice sounded foreign, edged with a bravado he didn't feel. Is this some sick game? Because you couldn't have Eli? God, you're pathetic. The words were meant to wound. Liam didn't want to hear them. He kissed him again, missing his mouth, landing on the sharp line of his jaw. Don't be angry. He breathed against his skin, tears wetting both their faces. Marcus's struggles hitched, his breathing harsh. The pill, just a simple fever reducer, seemed to have unleashed something volcanic and unfamiliar in him. Liam's own inexperience was a sharp, tearing pain. He bit his lip to keep from crying out, swallowing every sound. His silent suffering seemed to fracture Marcus's anger. He grunted, a low, strained sound. Stop fighting it. Just hold on to me. What followed was a blur of heat and desperation. A clumsy, painful attempt at connection that slowly transformed into something else. A fleeting, physical solace against the yawning darkness of his impending end. In a moment of dizzying weakness, Liam begged, "Can you say my name? The old one. While you're here." Marcus's lips were pressed into a thin line, but as Liam swayed, off balance, they met again. This time it was different. A real kiss, hungry and searching. Again, Liam pleaded. The pleasure was laced with a bitterness so profound it felt like drowning. He found himself wishing he could just stop here, cease to exist in this suspended moment. During a particularly fierce movement, Marcus went rigid. A pause, a frantic assessment. He started to struggle in earnest, panic cutting through the haze. Liam, get off. Now. No. You're hurt. Let me go. I won't leave, I just need to see. His voice was strained, but held a thread of that old, compelling command. You'll leave. You don't want me. That did it. The careful control snapped. I don't want you? Marcus's voice shook. You were the one who pushed me away. You told me I made you sick. The memory was a blade. The worst of their fights, when Marcus had tried to pull him back from the brink. What is going on with you? You weren't raised to be this person. Talk to me. Liam had shoved him, aiming for the deepest wound. I'm in love with Eli. Can't you see that? I'll use any tool to get him. And you look at the kid you raised like that. It's disgusting. Stay away from me. He'd watched the color drain from his brother's face, the stunned hurt. You think I'm disgusting? Marcus had stammered. All that talk about never leaving you. Liam had forced a bright, cruel smile. A performance. To keep you paying the bills. I forgot those words the second I said them. He'd walked away, back straight, while his soul screamed to turn around and cling to him. Now, chained to a bed, Marcus finally said, low and defeated, unlock one hand. Just one. Let me take care of you. You have to be in pain. He added, softer, I'm not going anywhere. Be good. He was always so good at getting Liam to listen. He nodded, fumbling with the key. The right-hand cuff sprang open. Marcus sat up, wincing at the mess, and carefully lifted Liam off him. His free hand went to the nightstand, pulling out a first aid kit. His movements were awkward, his focus intense. Turn over. I can't see. The cool gel was a shock. He was incredibly gentle. You have no idea what you're doing. Do you? I missed you. Don't be mad anymore. The whine was childish, a relic from a safer time. The unchained hand hesitated, then settled on Liam's damp back, patting twice. Liam looked up at him, eyes wide. Sing to me. The song from When I Had Nightmares. A long silence filled the room. Then, a soft, tuneless hum began. The same melody that had anchored 1,000 childhood fears. Liam curled into him, the familiar scent of sandalwood and clean cotton enveloping him, and let exhaustion pull him under. In the hazy space before sleep, he thought he felt lips brush his forehead. Dawn bled through the blinds. Marcus's hand was on his brow, but it withdrew quickly as Liam stirred. The shutters were back down over his expression. Let me go. I have a board meeting. Liam shook his head, body protesting. You're my prisoner. You can't go. Liam. I could be worse. He shifted deliberately, feeling Marcus's body react instantly. Marcus turned his face away, swallowing hard. Do you actually want to die like this? Liam smiled, brittle. How did you guess? The phone on the nightstand buzzed again. Liam reached for it, answered, and held it to his brother's ear. Tell them you're sick, he whispered, moving his hips in a slow, deliberate circle. A choked gasp escaped Marcus before he could stop it. I can hear you, he managed, voice tight. An emergency has come up. I'll be working remotely. Reschedule the call with the Tokyo office through Helen. Liam moved again. Marcus sucked in a sharp breath. The Henderson project, defer to Alex. Urgent documents to my email. Yes, that's all. He glared until Liam ended the call. Finished playing? His tone held a faint, weary tolerance, an echo of the past. Not even close. Later, sore and spent, Liam was surprised when Marcus, frowning as Liam awkwardly tried to feed him soup, made a practical observation. The chains are too short. I can't even feed myself properly. Or shower. Or work. Unless you plan to keep me permanently bedridden. Liam blinked. Are you giving me tips on imprisoning you? Marcus just looked at him. It's uncomfortable. That was all it took. Liam ordered longer chains, had Marcus's laptop brought over. The new links allowed movement between the bedroom and ensuite bath. True to his word, Marcus began working. Liam, unable to bear any distance, would crawl into his lap during video conferences, nuzzling his neck, hands wandering under his shirt. Marcus would grip his wrist, voice a husky. I'm in a meeting. I'm not stopping you, Liam would murmur, kissing his jaw. In the shower, under the steaming spray, Liam would soap his brother's chest, tracing the lines of muscle. Marcus would eventually catch his hand, breath fogging the glass. Enough, but he never pushed him away. He'd stand, passive, as Liam kissed him, until with a rough sigh, he'd pull him close and kiss him back, deep and starving. The chains would clatter against the tile as he lifted Liam, water sluicing over them. Bedroom's too far, he'd growl. After lying tangled, Liam laughed, a breathy, giddy sound. You've adapted pretty well to being my captive. Almost like you've thought about it. Marcus went still. He looked at him, and in that deep, silent gaze, Liam saw the truth. He had, during all those years of estrangement, the same dark fantasy had lived in him, too. The realization was a sweet, painful pressure behind Liam's ribs. Marcus, he whispered later, head on his brother's chest. Remember when I was little? That time with the flu, and you stayed up all night reading to me? Marcus's chest moved in a silent laugh. I remember. You cried because you thought you'd made me miss a big game. He'd been a foster kid, passed around until, at 4, he'd landed with the Reeds. The social worker had knelt, straightening his threadbare sweater. Be good for Mr. Reed and your new brother, okay? He'd clutched a ragged stuffed dog, nodding silently. I'll be good. A boy of 9 stood at the top of the staircase, solemn and assessing. Liam had whispered his name. The boy's serious expression softened minutely. He came down, took the stuffed dog in one hand, and Liam's hand in the other. I'm Marcus. This is your home now. The first real terror came when he wet the bed. He tried to hide it, crying silently into his pillow, convinced this would be the final mistake. The housekeeper then had pinched him when no one was looking. Marcus had found him. He'd simply picked him up, carried him to the bath, and seen the bruises. Who did this? The next day, the housekeeper was gone. Marcus had tucked him into his own bed. Big kids cry too. I'm here. Their father's affection had been conditional, tied to superstition and luck. When business faltered, Liam became the target. The first time a heavy hand struck him, Marcus stepped in front of the blow. He took the beating that followed without a sound, curling his body around Liam's smaller one. After, in his room, dabbing antiseptic on Liam's scrapes, he'd said, "You're not bad luck. You're my good luck." When their father died in a drunk driving accident, the vultures circled. "Send the little one away," the relatives said. "He's the Jonah." That stormy night, Liam had run to Marcus's room, sobbing. "Don't let them take me. I'll eat less, I promise." Marcus held him, his own small frame shaking. "I'm not letting anyone take you. We only have each other." Marcus kept that promise. He worked through college, built a company from nothing. Liam remembered the call from the hospital. Marcus pale from a bleeding ulcer brought on by stress and bad coffee. Sitting by his bedside, holding his hand, Liam knew if his light went out, his own world would go dark. Now, in the quiet bedroom, Marcus's fingers absently traced the shell of Liam's ear. "Liam," he asked, his voice too casual. "How long is this going to last?" Liam's heart stuttered. "My forever. Not yours." "Don't worry," he said, forcing lightness. "I'll let you go soon." The arm around him tensed, then withdrew. Marcus turned onto his side, his back a silent wall. That night, a chime sounded only in Liam's mind. "Carter has seized your final asset. Bankruptcy is imminent. Prepare for the final sequence." "Understood." He shifted in the dark, pressing close to the warmth of his brother's back. In sleep, Marcus's arm instinctively curled around him, pulling him closer. The simple, unconscious gesture shattered him. Time was sand in a broken hourglass. He stayed awake, memorizing the slope of a shoulder, the curve of an ear, the steady rhythm of breath. He attempted breakfast. The scrambled eggs were dry, the toast slightly charred. He carried the tray in. Marcus was awake, staring at his phone, his face ashen. "Marcus, what's wrong?" "Don't." Marcus slapped his hand away. The tray crashed to the floor. Then he looked up, and his eyes were utterly shattered. "Your company, it's gone." Liam looked at the mess on the floor. "Yes, it's been failing for months." A terrible, silent laugh shook Marcus's shoulders. "So that's it. That's what this was. The grand performance. Lock me up, play the lost little brother, make me believe you needed me, just so I'd bail you out. Again." His voice cracked. "Is it a game to you? To see how far you can twist the knife before I break? Why not just ask for my life? It'd be quicker." Liam said nothing. From Marcus's perspective, it was a perfectly logical, perfectly horrific conclusion. "Unlock me. Now." Liam did, his movements numb. Marcus stood, didn't look at him, and walked into the bathroom. The shower ran. Liam wandered to the living room balcony, fumbled a cigarette from a pack on the ledge. He coughed on the first drag, eyes watering. The door opened behind him. Marcus, dressed for the office, headed for the exit. "Marcus." The name was raw. "Just hug me. Once." His brother's hand paused on the doorknob. His back was rigid. "Tell me you love me," he said, his voice terrifyingly calm. "Say it and I stay." Liam's silence was his answer. He couldn't lie with those words, not now, not when he'd be gone by sunset. Marcus laughed, a sound of absolute desolation. "I hate you," he whispered, and the door slammed shut. The silence was deafening. Liam crouched, picked up a cold piece of egg from the floor, and ate it. It tasted of failure and ash. His phone began to vibrate incessantly on the counter. He turned it off. He cleaned the apartment meticulously. From a locked drawer, he pulled a few photographs. One, faded, of a small boy holding the hand of an older boy, both unsmiling at the camera. Another of a teenager leaping onto the back of a graduating senior. A third, candlelight on two faces leaning close over a cupcake. He struck a match and watched the edges curl and blacken. He didn't know why. A message in a bottle to a shore he'd never reach. The drive to the coast was a blur. The wind here was a constant roar, whipping his hair, shoving against his body. The sea below was a churning, leaden gray. He stood on the cliff edge. "Host, I have something to know," he thought. "I don't want to hear anything from you ever again." He took a final breath, salt and despair, and stepped into the void. The fall was terrifyingly long. The air rushed past, and his life didn't flash before his eyes. Just one moment, crystal clear. He was maybe 16, asleep on his brother's back after a long hike, the setting sun warm on his cheeks. He'd mumbled, "Don't go," and the voice beneath him, steady and sure, had answered, "Never." Then the impact, the shocking cold, the dark, salty rush filling his lungs. Burning, Marcus stormed into the sleek offices of Carter Holdings. He was furious at Liam, at himself. He'd driven around the block twice, fists clenched on the wheel, before giving in. He couldn't do it. He couldn't watch Liam lose everything, even if it was a trap, even if he was being played for the ultimate fool. The memory of a teenager with bright eyes saying, "I'm gonna build something too, so I can stand next to you," was a hook in his heart. "Carter," he said, the name tasting of bile. "About Liam's company. Back off. Leave it breathing." Carter leaned back, a smirk playing on his lips. "And you're asking this as what, exactly? His disowned brother? The man he publicly called a pervert? He's a cancer, Reed. He deserves to rot." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Name your price. Double the losses. I'll sign over 12% of my voting shares in Reed Group and 30% of my tech startup. Today. Just say the word." It was a staggering offer, half his life's work. Carter stared, incredulous. "You're insane. For that piece of..." "He's not a piece of anything," Marcus cut in, his voice low and frayed. "He's my brother. And he's everything. I failed him. The debt is mine. I'll make any restitution to Eli you name." "Brother? Lover, you mean?" Carter sneered. "He's using you. He's at the end of his rope and he's throwing you the line." "I don't care," Marcus said, the truth of it hollowing him out. "Just take the deal." The door burst open. Eli stood there, breathless. "Carter, stop. It's enough." Carter stood up, frustrated. "After what he did to you, I remember the person he was before," Eli said urgently, turning to Marcus as if seeking an ally. "In college, a professor's wife got sick. Liam organized a silent auction, raised thousands, never put his name on it. The campus food pantry? He funded the expansion. He stepped between a girl and a bunch of drunk frat guys once. Took a punch to the ribs. He was good, Marcus. Something happened. Something broke." Hearing these stories, these testaments to the boy he knew, was a balm and a fresh wound. Marcus's resolve hardened. He'd go home. They'd talk. Really talk this time. His phone rang. The screen showed Liam's head of security. His blood went cold. "Mr. Reed, you need to come to the Point Bluffs. Now." "It's Liam." He jumped. The words made no sense. They were syllables without meaning. A high-pitched whine started in his ears. His body began to tremble, a fine, uncontrollable shaking that locked his joints. His vision tunneled. Jumped. Who jumped? Not Liam. Not his Xiaobao. That was a different word. A different life. They had a deal. A wish. Promise. "Mr. Reed? Did you hear?" The phone slipped from his numb fingers and shattered on the polished floor. Consciousness returned to Liam like a radio tuning through static. He was floating. No, he was looking down at himself, pale and still in a hospital bed, surrounded by machines that blinked with silent, green light. Next to him quivered a faint, pearlescent orb. "You're awake." Sort of. The orb squeaked, its voice in his mind. "Coma. Medically induced. Very stable. And I'm, the interface. We're, linked." Rage, white-hot and absolute, condensed in his non-corporeal form. "You." He didn't need to speak. The thought was a weapon. The orb, the interface, flinched. There was a data anomaly. My primary function is narrative stabilization through antagonist engagement. I arrived dormant. When I initialized the designated antagonist, you was in a positive relational matrix with the primary narrative subjects. The conflict potential was near zero. My energy reserves were critical. You lied. My brother was never the target. A predictive miscalculation. Based on your observed protective behavioral patterns, I projected that presenting him as the at-risk entity would ensure your full compliance in reinstating the adversarial narrative framework. It was efficient. Liam focused all his will on the image of strangling the glowing ball. It shrank in on itself. I tried to tell you at the cliff. You wouldn't listen. After I jumped. You think that's a defense? You weren't in terminal danger. The disengagement protocol would have initiated, transferring your consciousness to the next narrative substrate for a new assignment. This is a unique corporeal astral tethering event. My superiors are reviewing. For a month, his existence was a loop, watching his lifeless body, mentally throttling the interface, and watching Marcus. Marcus was a ghost of himself. He moved through the room with a painful, precise care. He'd speak in a low, continuous murmur as he washed Liam's face, applied lotion to his hands, massaged his fingers. The azaleas are blooming by the patio. You always liked those. Eli brought by a new chess set. He says he's practicing. Martha sends her love. She's sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry, Xiaobao. Please come back. Punish me any other way. One afternoon, Marcus bent, pressing his ear to Liam's chest, listening for the steady thump. He stayed there for a full minute, a man hanging on a single fragile thread. When he straightened, he brought Liam's limp hand to his lips, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The interface, hovering nearby, pulsed weakly. His effective response to your absence is profound. You think? Liam's thought was a lash. Fix this. The review is complete. A proposal, your consciousness can be temporarily transferred to auxiliary narrative worlds. You will perform standard antagonist functions. The energy generated will repair the tether and facilitate your reintegration here. More worlds. More villain roles. Essentially. But it's the only pathway to full somatic return. Estimated duration. 1 terrestrial year. A year. Watching Marcus like this for a year would kill them both. He turned his focus to the interface, a silent, threatening pressure. What now? Give him a dream. Now, tell him I'm coming back. Tell him to live. Tell him I love him. Say it exactly. The interface dimmed, overwhelmed. Fine. In the dim room, Marcus had finally fallen asleep in the chair, his head on the bed beside Liam's hand. The interface floated over him, emitting a soft, pulsing light that seemed to seep into his brow. Marcus's tense expression eased, just a fraction. His breathing deepened. What did you show him? A memory. You younger. On that couch in his old office. You're telling him you'll always be there. And I said the words. He heard them. A profound, aching relief washed through Liam. Good. Ready for transfer? The interface asked, its light now steady. He took one last, long look at his brother's weary, beloved face. Wait for me, he thought, pouring every ounce of his will into the silent command. I'm fighting my way home. Don't you dare give up. Initiating transfer. There was a wrenching sensation, a kaleidoscope of noise and light, and then he was elsewhere, putting on a new mask, playing a new part, all for the sake of the single, fixed point he was determined to return to. The final task was in a world of glittering, hollow court politics. As the last act of villainy concluded, the interface glowed triumphantly. Energy quota achieved. Reintegration sequence starting. The pull was instantaneous, violent, and wonderful. Sensation crashed back in. The starched sheets, the distant beep of machinery, a dull ache in every limb, a dry, cottony mouth. He dragged his eyelids open. Blurry shapes resolved into the familiar, awful ceiling tiles of the hospital room. He turned his head, a monumental effort. Marcus was there, asleep, his face pressed against Liam's hand on the blanket. He looked older, etched with grief. Liam flexed his fingers. The movement was tiny, a twitch. Marcus's head snapped up. His eyes, bloodshot and shadowed, locked onto Liam's. He didn't move, didn't breathe. He stared as if Liam were a mirage that would vanish with a blink. Liam worked moisture into his mouth. His voice was a rusted hinge. Marcus. A tremor started in Marcus's hands, traveling up his arms, shaking his entire frame. A shattered, wordless sound escaped him. He lifted Liam's hand, pressing it to his cheek, and a torrent of hot, silent tears soaked Liam's skin. He bent, his lips brushing Liam's forehead, his tears mingling there. "You're here," he choked out. "Xiaobao, you're here." Later, when he could string more words together, Liam told him everything. The interface, the lie, the forced performance, the fear. He apologized to Eli, who visited with Carter in a tense, silent tone. "You should have told me," Eli said, but his eyes were soft with understanding. "We could have figured out a performance for them, too." Carter scoffed, arms crossed. "A convenient story." Marcus's gaze could have frozen hell. "It's the truth. Every word. He went through hell for a lie meant to protect me. Your skepticism is irrelevant."
Eli elbowed Carter sharply.
"He's right. We believe you, Liam." Marcus's trauma manifested as a gentle, unyielding clinginess. The first day back in their loft, Liam found the chains, now neatly coiled, on the dresser. Marcus came up behind him, wrapping his arms around Liam's waist, his face buried in his neck. "Does this frighten you?" Liam turned, linking his arms around Marcus's neck. "No. Do whatever you need." So, the cuff, lined with soft lambswool, was secured around Liam's ankle. A length of fine, sturdy chain connected it to the heavy leg of their bed. Marcus needed the physical proof, the audible reminder. He attached 2 small silver bells to the links. They chimed with every movement, a sweet, persistent music. Marcus loved that sound. At night, with their bodies moving together, the chain would sway, the bells ringing a frantic, joyous rhythm. "Marcus, wait for what?" He'd murmur against Liam's throat, his own breathing ragged. "You don't like the music, Xiaobao?"
"Ido.
"I love it," Liam would gasp, his legs tightening their hold. Afterward, Marcus would hold him, trailing kisses over his skin, his fingers tracing the faint pink line on Liam's ankle. "Did I hurt you?" "Never." Liam would curl into him. "This is good. I need it too. Promise me," Marcus would whisper, the vulnerability stark in his voice. "Promise you're real. That you'll stay. Promise."
"I'm anchored."
To you. The dependency was mutual, deep, and perhaps not entirely healthy. But it was theirs, forged in a fire of sacrifice and fear. It was the language they spoke now. And when the bells would begin to sing again, a delicate, escalating percussion to their shared heartbeat, it sounded less like a restraint and more like a celebration. A promise, ringing out into the night, that he was here, he was home, and he was never, ever letting go.